nice to meet some of Ricky's friends from Cuba after all these years.
Lucy quiere que le diga que está muy contenta de conocer a los amigos míos de Cuba después de tantos años de casados.
Muchas gracias.
Did you have a nice boat trip up here?
Honey, they're not hard of hearing, you know.
Every day, I share another story from the Golden Age and the moments that shaped an unforgettable era. If you'd like to keep these memories alive with me, hit subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it means a lot. Thank you for being here. Now let's begin. Behind Lucille Ball's fiery red hair and legendary laugh sat stories Hollywood tried its best to bury. Stories packed with quiet chaos, whispered secrets, and relationships that would have sent shockwaves through the industry if the truth had slipped out back then. Lucille Ball wasn't just America's comedy queen. She was a powerhouse producer who flipped television upside down, all while carrying a private life way more tangled and dramatic than anyone watching her on weeknights could ever imagine. While millions adored her as the fun, unpredictable Lucy Ricardo, the real woman behind the character was juggling a wild mix of heartbreak, hidden connections, and secret romances that insiders kept hush-hush for decades. Today, we're cracking open the vault on one of Hollywood's most cherished icons to show a version of Lucy that executives worked overtime to keep out of the spotlight because they knew the world wasn't ready for this side of her. The hidden relationships, those late-night meetups, and the complicated reality of her marriage to Desi Arnaz were all pieces of a life packed with passion, contradictions, and personal battles that shaped the woman behind the sitcom legend. Think you already know Lucille Ball? You might want to take a breath because the truth about her private life makes the wildest Hollywood scripts look tame. For decades, the details of Lucy's romantic mix-ups were protected by people who were fiercely loyal to her, but now those walls are finally cracking. Lucy reportedly once told a close friend, "The public thinks they know my love story. They don't even know the half of it. And after hearing what comes next, you'll never look at an episode of I Love Lucy the same way again." What makes all of this even more jaw-dropping is how perfectly these secrets were buried during her prime. Back then, one wrong headline could end a career overnight. Studios ran their stars' public images like military operations, with entire teams whose only job was to keep scandals out of newspapers, even if that meant bending the truth or burying it completely. So the fact that these affairs stayed hidden for so many years shows just how tight the old Hollywood machine was, and how deeply Lucy's inner circle respected her privacy. You might be thinking, how are we even hearing about this now? The answer comes from newly uncovered letters, long-ignored memoirs, from those who worked right beside her, and aging insiders finally opening up because they feel the truth deserves daylight now that so many years have passed. As the last group of people who truly knew Lucy personally are reaching the final chapters of their lives, some have decided it's finally time to share what they saw with their own eyes. Believing the truth won't harm her legacy, but instead help people understand the complicated, brilliant woman she really was. So stay with us as we walk through the 6 men that sources claim caught the attention of TV's most unforgettable redhead when the cameras stopped rolling. These revelations don't just uncover Lucy's private feelings, but also shine a brighter light on the layered, passionate, and determined woman behind her beloved television persona. And like Casey says, "Fell ain't got a soul of his own, just little piece of one," a quote that fits this story more than people realize. Now let's talk about one of the first names connected to her, Henry Fonda, the man many insiders quietly called the respected gentleman. Back in the 1930s, before Lucy became a household name, she was grinding away at RKO Studios as a contract actress. And that's where her path crossed with Fonda, who was already a major star known for his calm charm and integrity, both on and off the set. The two worked together during Lucy's early days in Hollywood, and according to people who were on those sets, the chemistry between them was impossible to ignore. Several production assistants from that era claimed they saw a spark, something subtle but strong enough that crew members whispered about it for years afterward. What made this rumored connection even more surprising was the fact that both Lucy and Fonda were married at the time. And according to Jane Fonda's autobiography, her father did have a pattern of catching feelings for women he worked closely with, making the possibility of a connection with Lucy more believable than people might think. A wardrobe assistant who worked with both stars later told Hollywood historian Robert Mattson, "She said Henry was the first man who made her feel respected, not just looked at," adding that in those days, actresses were often treated like decorations on a set. But Fonda actually talked with Lucy, asked for her opinions, and that intellectual spark hit her harder than any surface-level charm ever could. The rumored affair didn't last long, mostly because both were still tied to their marriages, but people close to Lucy said she always spoke about Fonda with a warm, almost protective tone, something she didn't do with just anyone. Years later, during a 1970s interview, when someone brought up Henry Fonda, Lucy reportedly smiled softly and said, "Only Henry was a gentleman in every sense of the word," before changing the subject, almost like she didn't want to reveal too much. Most fans have no idea that Lucy and Henry Fonda kept a close, lifelong connection long after their rumored romance faded into the past. When Lucy was grinding through the early chaos of building Disbelief Productions, insiders say Fonda quietly stepped in with emotional support and real business advice, helping her learn how to move through Hollywood not just as a performer, but as a force to be taken seriously. A makeup artist who worked with Lucy during the 1960s remembered something striking. Anytime Henry's name came up, Lucy's whole expression softened, not in a romantic way, but in a deep, grateful, almost nostalgic way. She once told the artist that back when Hollywood treated her like just another pretty face, Henry was the one who saw her sharp comedic instincts and her business ambition, and that kind of recognition stuck with her forever. This became a pattern throughout Lucy's life. She was drawn to men who recognized her brain before anything else, men who saw her not as an ornament, but as a powerhouse in the making. For her, mental chemistry was often just as strong, sometimes even stronger than physical attraction, which explains why she connected so easily with brilliant, unpredictable personalities. And with that, enter Orson Welles, the storm of genius she couldn't ignore. Orson Welles, Hollywood's wild-card mastermind, fit Lucy's attraction to creativity perfectly, even dangerously so. In the early 1940s, while Welles was running the Mercury Theater and shaking the entire film world with Citizen Kane, he and Lucy were seen slipping away for long lunches that definitely got people talking. They weren't loud or flashy about it, but anyone who knew Hollywood at the time recognized that their private talks weren't just casual hangouts. Actor Norman Lloyd, part of the Mercury Theater, once said Welles was fascinated by Lucy's quick mind, her comedic instincts, her understanding of physical humor, everything. Their bond wasn't just about chemistry, it was a meeting of two sharp, creative brains. Welles saw in her what RKO executives missed, that she was a true comic genius waiting for her moment. But this didn't sit well with Desi Arnaz, not at all. According to Disbelief staff members, Desi would get tense the moment Welles' name appeared on a call sheet or seemed to pop up around the studio. One receptionist remembered, Mr. Arnaz would demand to know exactly how long Mr. Welles had been there and what they had discussed. Seeing Desi genuinely jealous was rare, but Orson brought that out in him every time. A close friend of Lucy's, quoted in multiple biographies but never identified, summed it up in one chilling line. He was a genius, and she loved dangerous men. And that was Orson. Brilliant, unpredictable, magnetic, even stranger Welles, who openly discussed his past romances without hesitation, was unusually quiet when asked about Lucy. In a 1975 interview, when pressed about the nature of their connection, he simply said, "Some connections are too meaningful to be reduced to gossip," and refused to say anything else. What's even more fascinating is how this rumored connection seemed to influence Lucy's career. After spending time with Orson, people noticed she began stepping into her power in a whole new way. A script supervisor who worked closely with both of them said, "After being around Orson, Lucy started questioning directors more, offering sharper ideas, taking control of the scenes. It was like he woke up a new confidence inside her." Film historian Katherine Johnson even noted that the timing was too perfect to ignore. Lucy's evolution from a mid-level contract actress to a woman determined to command her own career lined up directly with her association with Welles. He had a reputation for lifting up artists he believed in, and he clearly believed in Lucille Ball in a way few others did. If this rumored romance was real, it wasn't just some Hollywood fling. It might have been the spark that helped transform Lucy into the first woman ever to run a major studio. And when Lucy later went head-to-head with CBS executives for creative control, insiders claimed she often tapped into what they called her Orson energy. She'd lower her voice, slow down her tone, and deliver her points with razor-sharp precision, just like she'd seen Welles do in countless creative battles. It was bold, it was effective, and it stunned executives who only knew her bubbly public persona. Out of all the long-running whispers tied to Lucy's private life, the rumors about her and Hollywood's original rebel, Robert Mitchum, are the ones people still talk about, and it's easy to see why. Several Desslu insiders believed Lucy and Mitchum had a brief physical connection in the early 1950s, right when I Love Lucy was turning into a national sensation. Mitchum already carried a reputation for getting close to his co-stars, which made the possibility feel very real. What really makes this rumor hit harder is the timing. This was during a period when Lucy was becoming painfully aware of Desi's very public infidelities, something that left her heart heavy and frustrated. A production assistant who worked at both Desilu and on Mitchum's films claimed that the two often crossed paths at industry events and seemed to naturally drift toward each other every time. He was everything Desi wasn't, the assistant said. Cold, quiet, and already done with the drama. Mitchum didn't chase attention, he just automatically had it, and Lucy thought that was magnetic. Hollywood historian Jeffrey Mark agreed, saying Mitchum carried that intense, simmering energy that completely contrasted the playful, sweet image Lucy created on TV. America saw her as the silly, lovable housewife, but off-screen she needed to feel like a confident, desirable woman. And Mitchum had a way of making women feel exactly that. The rumored romance supposedly ended almost as fast as it started, with both stars recognizing they couldn't risk a scandal that might damage their careers. Neither ever confirmed anything, but Mitchum was known to give a small, mysterious smile whenever a reporter dropped Lucy's name in an interview, just enough to keep the rumor alive. What made the gossip even more intriguing was the change critics noticed in Lucy's performance around that same period. Television analysts pointed out that in episodes from mid-1952 onward, Lucy carried herself with a new sense of maturity, something subtle but powerful. A film scholar studying her evolution wrote, "There's a noticeable shift in how she moves and how she commands the screen during this era, a deeper confidence that adds richness to her comedy." Mitchum's niece later shared a personal detail in a memoir. Her uncle kept a signed photo of Lucy tucked away in his private study until the day he passed. It wasn't displayed. It was hidden in a desk drawer with his personal keepsakes. The inscription said, "To Bob, some storms are worth getting caught in. L." That line alone made historians pause. What made the potential affair especially risky was Mitchum's public reputation. Just a few years earlier, he had been arrested for marijuana possession, a scandal that nearly destroyed his career if America's wholesome redhead had been linked to Hollywood's notorious bad boy. The fallout could have been catastrophic for her carefully crafted image. One Desilu security guard shared a surprising memory in a late-life interview. He said he once accidentally saw Mitchum quietly leaving Lucy's dressing room late at night. According to him, Desi later handed him an envelope with $300, huge money at the time, and told him, "You worked very hard. You should take a vacation and forget anything you might have seen tonight." The guard said he had a family to support, so he stayed silent. John Wayne, the most unexpected connection. Now here's the name almost nobody expects. John Wayne. The tough, iconic Western star and Lucy seemed like total opposites, yet old Hollywood gossip suggests their connection might have been deeper than the public ever knew. According to the unpublished memoirs of columnist Hedda Hopper, Wayne and Lucy shared a brief, low-key bond during a time when both were between marriages. They often bumped into each other at charity events, premieres, and studio gatherings, forming a warm, easy friendship that lasted for decades. But one insider, a driver who worked for both stars, claimed their connection wasn't purely platonic. In his private journals, he wrote that they shared a short, no-strings weekend that both understood would stay between them. "It was never serious," he wrote, "just a weekend no one ever talked about again. But there was real affection and mutual respect. For a moment, they found comfort where they needed it." And this rumor gained even more weight because Wayne and Lucy's professional relationship stayed strong for years. Wayne even guest starred on The Lucy Show in 1966, and the chemistry between them was effortless, too smooth to ignore. Their on-screen energy felt like two people who knew each other much better than casual colleagues. When Lucy was asked about Wayne in 1977, she smiled and said, "Duke was one of the good ones, a real professional and a true gentleman in private." That soft smile she gave afterward left plenty of room for interpretation. What makes this rumored bond so fascinating is how wildly different Wayne was from Desi Arnaz. Where Desi was flashy and lively, Wayne was rugged, steady, and carried an old-school sense of masculinity. That contrast alone makes this chapter of Lucy's hidden history one of the most surprising and one of the most intriguing. Lucy's longtime hairstylist once shared something that hit hard. She said Lucy told her that after years of riding through Desi's emotional highs and lows, she started feeling drawn to men who were steady, calm, and didn't need the spotlight every second. Lucy explained, "I spent my days creating chaos for the camera. In my private life, I craved calm. And honestly, that explains a lot." Even though Lucy and John Wayne looked mismatched on screen, they both had a no-nonsense streak that made them click behind the scenes. Both of them worked non-stop and hated the fake Hollywood attitude that floated around everywhere. Wayne's son Patrick even said in a 2005 interview that Dad had immense respect for Lucy as a businesswoman. He'd say she had bigger balls than most of the studio executives he dealt with. That was basically the strongest compliment John Wayne could give anyone. It showed how seriously he took her, both as a star and as someone who could run circles around studio decision-makers. A set photographer remembered catching a moment during Wayne's guest appearance on The Lucy Show that felt surprisingly intimate. He said there was a break between takes when they thought no one was looking, and Wayne whispered something in her ear that made her laugh. Not her big on-camera laugh, but her real one. She gave his hand a little squeeze, not flirty exactly, but definitely personal, like they low-key shared a private history that didn't need explaining to anyone. Then we shift into the most explosive rumor yet, the one involving an unnamed CBS executive who was supposedly one of Desi's closest friends. According to several Desilu staff members who spoke long after Lucy's passing, Lucy eventually reached a breaking point with Desi's behavior. They claimed she had what one insider described as a revenge affair with this executive, and the way it was told, it wasn't about romance at all, it was about balance. A secretary from the executive offices at Desilu said, "Several of us knew it wasn't about love, it was about leverage." Lucy had reached a point where she needed to protect herself, and choosing someone so close to Desi sent a clear message. A studio accountant later claimed that Desi figured it out, but he couldn't confront her. He supposedly said Desi was 10 women deep himself, so he had no ground to stand on. The accountant described one huge argument where Desi tried to point a finger at her, and she simply mentioned the executive's name. Desi went pale and dropped the subject instantly. That moment alone said everything. They both knew what was happening, and neither could push too hard without exposing their own secrets. What makes this rumor even more interesting is that the unnamed executive stayed connected to both Lucy and Desi for years, even after the divorce. That shows just how tangled personal and professional ties were back then, especially in Hollywood's golden era. According to a writer from the I Love Lucy team, there was a noticeable shift in their work dynamic around 1955. Before that, Desi would sometimes brush off Lucy's ideas during production meetings, but after whatever happened that year, his whole attitude changed. Suddenly he listened more, backed her more, and treated her creative ideas with real respect. People at CBS noticed it too. A secretary from the network at the time said Lucy suddenly had access to things she hadn't been given before. Bigger budgets, more creative control, better scheduling. Nothing dramatic had changed with ratings, so everyone quietly wondered where her new influence came from. And according to Lucy's longtime personal assistant, who wrote about it privately for family, the affair wasn't about passion. It was about finally having power after years of being hurt and dismissed. She wasn't trying to win anyone's heart. She was trying to reclaim her own confidence and control. She once confided, "Sometimes you have to speak to people in the only language they understand." And the way she said it showed a whole new side of her. It was the first time her assistant saw Lucy lean fully into her own power, not just as a megastar, but as a woman who finally realized she could move with the same strategy as the men who had pushed her aside for years. Hollywood historian Martin Green later said that if this rumored revenge affair really happened, it marked a turning point in Lucy's life. It showed the moment she shifted from silently dealing with Desi's behavior to reclaiming her pride and her control. Some believe this shift was the beginning of the path that led her to take full control of Desilu after the divorce. A move nobody saw coming, but one she walked into with confidence. That energy echoes in old behind-the-scenes moments where people say things like, "Jesse, that's my wife," or "This is Lucy, hey boy," with that jealous twist everyone remembers. It captured how people underestimated her while she was quietly learning how to stand firm. 6. Dean Martin, the late-life companion. The last rumored connection came long after the chaos of her marriage to Desi and during her marriage to comedian Gary Morton. According to several people close to Lucy during those later years, she and Dean Martin found a quiet companionship when they were both older, tired, and trying to figure out who they were outside the spotlight. Dean was divorced and drifting after splitting professionally from Jerry Lewis, and Lucy was dealing with the weight of redefining herself after her biggest era had passed. A neighbor near Lucy's Beverly Hills home said Dean's unmistakable car was seen pulling up late at night throughout the late 60s and early 70s. The neighbor told a Hollywood historian it wasn't about lust, it was two survivors finding each other in the wreckage. And that description hits like a truth people weren't ready to hear. These were two legends who didn't need to explain themselves. Both had lived through the bright lights and the shadows, and they understood each other's struggles without saying a word. Their chemistry on television added even more intrigue. Whenever they appeared together, that easy flow between them, the soft spark in their eyes, and the relaxed body language made it look like they shared something personal. It wasn't dramatic, just warm and real. Lucy's longtime hairdresser swore that she lit up differently whenever Dean was nearby, or even when his name came up in casual conversation. It wasn't excitement like a teenager, but a calm glow, like she felt genuinely seen and understood. Neither Lucy nor Dean ever admitted publicly to anything romantic, and considering their status in Hollywood, staying discreet would have been the smart move. Still, people close to them noticed moments of tenderness that didn't feel like simple friendship. Dean's daughter, Dina, wrote in her memoir that her father had a private phone with a very short list of people who had the number, and Lucy was one of them. She said, sometimes he'd take those calls in private, which was unusual for him. Dean was open with his kids, so when he stepped away to talk quietly, it meant something personal was happening, something just for him and Lucy. The timing of this rumored connection makes it even more touching. Both were facing the slow fade of their careers and trying to figure out how to live outside the fast pace of fame. Dean was wrestling with his identity after the Jerry Lewis breakup, and Lucy was trying to reinvent herself in a TV world she no longer completely controlled. A producer who knew them both explained that they had a shorthand, a level of understanding only people who've taken the hits of fame could share. He said they could drop the Hollywood act around each other, and that alone was rare in their world. Even Gary Morton, Lucy's second husband, was reportedly aware of her bond with Dean, and he didn't seem bothered. People who knew the couple said their marriage had a practical side. Gary handled her business affairs and offered stability, while also giving her space to maintain the friendships she cherished. A household staff member from the 1970s claimed that Gary and Dean were actually friendly with each other, adding, "It wasn't the jealous situation you might expect, they seemed to have an understanding." Gary was even quoted saying, "Lucy deserves all the happiness she can find. God knows she's earned it." Lucy carried most of these stories with her until her passing on April 26, 1989. In her final interview, a few months before she died, she was asked directly about the rumors surrounding her romantic life. She simply smiled and said, "The world got my talent, only a select few got my heart." And that one sentence said everything without naming a single name. So were these 6 rumored connections real? Hollywood insiders who knew Lucy say yes. They believe she found moments of comfort and connection outside her troubled marriage, searching for the respect, steadiness, and emotional safety she wasn't getting at home. In the end, the details matter less than the truth behind them. That behind the iconic redhead millions adored was a real woman, layered and passionate, fighting to reclaim her happiness however she could. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button if you felt something real, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories.